Good morning. Happy Friday. Trish, I see the music was working. What a great way to start our Friday. Good morning, Dave Coffee. Good to see you're on. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with I think this is our fourth or fifth live update once a month. We have a few topics this morning. As you all know, we have a purpose of creating coherence in our communication across layers of the system in the state, and this update allows multiple audiences to get on. So happy to have everybody here this morning, and we have a few topics that we'll give an update on. They are fact fluency. We have some events that went live. I'll give a quick update on those and where you can find them. We have a leader series that we haven't really talked about yet with too many audiences. It does launch next month, and we've had quite a few questions on it. So I'm going to say a few things about that. And then the 23H, the competitive grants that have come out through legislation in the department, I'll give a quick update on that as well. As always, we end with a question answer to ask any questions that might be helpful. So let's go ahead and dive in. Good morning, Christy Hanby. Hopefully you're staying warm over on the east side. So the two events that I mentioned on the left, the leader series, this upcoming events document is probably going to be making its way into the chat because Heather or some other friends probably have access to it and can throw it in. Leader series is on the left, and the fact fluency are in the top right. There are two options for fact fluency. I'll talk quickly about them. One of them is face-to-face on March 13 with the virtual follow-up options. That is in the Detroit area. And then we do have a virtual option on March 14 and 18 along with the follow-ups. Those are virtual so that we can provide better access across the state. So take note of those. Let's dive into a little bit of detail around each of these items. For those of us who are new with the registration or old with the registration, we have reorganized things. So just re-showing us how we get to where the early math events are. As you see on this first page, if you click that early math icon, it's going to take you to the old page. There's only one event that's live there still. It's the instructional rounds event that's happening on February 12th. That has a few spots left. So if you're interested in a Train the Trainer on how to facilitate instructional rounds, click that hexagon. Everything else is going to be in this new space that I'm showing you now. So you would click events, and then you would click early math. And once you get there, you'll see this screen. This screen has all of the events that we'll have live. Meaningful Fact Fluency is that rectangle in the top right. And in that click, if you were to click there, both the face-to-face and the virtual options are available. A quick note about those, we do have a memory map that goes out with this training. It is a Train the Trainer model around fact fluency. The ideas on the memory map are a quick summary of what the content is. And if you've seen the book from Jenny Bay Williams and Gina Kling, there's a lot of coherence between these two things, the book and then this training. Our trainer is actually one of the authors, Dr. Gina Kling, who is Michigan-based and a friend of our work. So if you're interested, feel free to click get registered. Feel free to share it. We do have a flyer for that as well. I bet Trish, I know you're probably scrambling when I say your name, but feel free to put the flyer in if you're able. Mary Ann has a quick question. June 10, 11. Yes, great question, Mary Ann. So on that upcoming events flyer that Heather put in chat, there is a June 10, 11 event. We're working with Dr. Amy Noel Parks to develop a Train the Trainer model for some essential work for pre-K audience. The content is pre-K. There will be a lot of early childhood specialists and other roles that are leadership in the pre-K world that will be invited. In addition to that, if you're interested in access to the content and you support pre-K educators, feel free to get registered. I think we have 250-ish spaces, with it about half full right now. It will fill. So if you're interested, feel free to get registered for that pre-K event. Christy Hanby asks if the Memory Met is available. Yeah, Christy, we could probably get you a PDF copy. Maybe send Trish and I an email, and we'll chat with you about the Memory Met and see if we can get it for you. I'll pause for a sec to see if there's anything else on fact fluency prior to moving to the next one. And next up is our leader series. So again, when you click that events button, you'll see leader series here. We've had, like I said before, we've had quite a few questions on this series. So I just wanted to spend just a second talking about some of the content and structures. There is a flyer. Heather will be throwing that in chat, I'm sure, soon. This flyer breaks down a couple of really important things. First and easiest, on the right-hand side or the back of the flyer, you'll see the dates and the structure. You'll notice that there's a webinar launch on February 15. It's about an hour and a half where we'll just kind of overview the project and get everybody in the same space so they have access to the resources. And then from February 15 to April 15, there's work that will happen asynchronously with teams. So we're going to provide the documents, the protocols, the procedures, all in the content for these teams to do the work. So know that on February 15, you'll have access to all of the things that you'll need to do with the team that you partner with before we come together face-to-face in April. With that pre-work done, we hope that we have a common foundation of learning, common language, common vocabulary, so that when we're in the room April 15 and 16, we're able to spend the time doing the work. So there's less people on stage talking and teaching and more people walking around the room and networking and collaborating and actually doing the work with their team. So that's our hope and in our structure. We do have Great Wolf Lodge space held on April 15 and 16 for our face-to-face. We hope to fill that room. We will have a virtual option. There are a couple of teams who said that date doesn't work for us to be in Traverse City, but we will offer a virtual option. Face-to-face is priority if possible. Now, the details on the left-hand side of the flyer, we know the content is going to be centered around adult learning systems. So think about Organizational Practice 4. If you're familiar with that document, it talks about the adult learning system, and that's what this series is going to support us to do. The audience is a mix between ISD leaders and local district leaders. So we hope this series creates a space for these two audiences to partner together, to learn alongside one another, so that they're able to, one, learn together, talk, and then apply the work as we're thinking about the 24-25 school year. So examples of teams are in the bottom right. It's probably small, but you will have the flyer in the chat if you want to open it up. Maybe there's a couple ISD leaders, like a math consultant and a literacy consultant or a literacy coach, who partner with a district who they plan to work with next year. And that district representatives could be a principal, a curriculum director, and maybe a coach. So like these two ISD people and these three local district people create a team, and those teams with ISD and district will be the team that will actually do the work. So once we get everybody in the room on this virtual room on February 15, we'll make sense of all of that. But I think most of our questions have come in around who is our team. Take a look at that flyer, look at the bottom right. There are 4 examples, but there are probably an infinite amount of examples that could exist. I'm going to pause because I've said a lot and look at the chat. Yes, Becky, thank you. We are inviting pre-K as well, as long as we have people who are on teams who have control of the adult learning system. Our hope is that we think about the 24-25 school year and look at the existing system that we might have and be able to refine it. So I think making sure that we have people with executive authority on the team to actually refine the upcoming system will be really important. So yes, Becky, pre-K is invited as well. We've had a couple ISDs reach out and say, can we just have an ISD team? We'd like to think about our adult learning that we're offering across the ISD. And of course we say, yes, we're focusing on local district work, but as long as your team has a little flexibility, they'll easily be able to make this happen. Good question, Robin. How does 23H impact this work? That's a great question. I don't know that we have answers to it yet. I do think that this work will be able to be embedded in 23H work, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. The resources, the learning, and the protocols, all the documents and tools we're developing for this series, I think are going to be able to support leaders in what I'll talk about in a minute with 23H. So I know they're not mutually exclusive, but the overlap is we're still sorting some of those things out. Great, thanks, Becky. I'll give it another second if there's any other questions. Again, look at the flyer. We have space for 100 people in Traverse City. I think we're about half full right now. It will fill. So if you're interested and have a team, I would get registered soon. Amy Powney, the flyer that I'm showing, Heather, I think that's in the notes of the slide deck. If it's not, I can send it out, or maybe Trish, you can look in the Google Drive. It's in the organizational practices folder. We'll get it, Amy. If we don't put it in chat now, I'll send it to you. And moving forward, looks like chat is slowed. Next topic is 23H. So Robin already gave us a beautiful bridge to this content. This is competitive grants that have come out through legislation in the department that we've talked about the last couple of months. The 4 buckets that you see on the screen, we've talked about. I'm going to zero in on bucket 1. Bucket 1 is particularly important for us in this audience because we've been working with the gen ed directors from ISDs and ISD leadership to think about what might it look like for us to try to do this system development, capacity building, and networking spaces for early math specialists across Michigan in a coherent way. One of the downsides, as you all know, of competitive grants is that it creates pockets of work that's happening across the state with little system or access across Michigan. And so what we've been thinking about with ISD leaders and gen ed directors is how could we possibly create a consortium around bucket 1 and submit an application that creates coherence and builds a system across Michigan to support teaching and learning of mathematics. So where we are currently is most ISDs have said that they're interested and want to create a consortium. So right now where we're sitting is pretty much all ISDs have said, yes, let's do this thing. And so knowing that the application is due end of March, we're going to start working on what the content and the structure is of this application that would hopefully build a system across Michigan in partnership with ISDs and local districts. So I'll go in a little bit, and some of you have probably seen this video, depending on where you sit. I'll go into a few slides that just balcony level give us an idea of what this system could be. It's important to know in the bottom right-hand corner that this section 1 has to have specific partners. So it has to have at least one ISD as a partner. It has to have a district with their 3rd grade M-STEP scores below the state average. So already we're saying this is for districts who might need additional support. Their 3rd grade M-STEP scores below the state average. The state average at the district level is 42.9% in 3rd grade. So any district that has a district average below that would be eligible to be a partner with an ISD in this work. And then also the 3rd bullet, this section 1 has to have an early math researcher from a higher ed institution. So all of those things are in play, and I'll kind of go into where we're currently at in our thinking around the system, knowing that this is the current iteration and we'll iterate prior to submission. So what I'll speak to at the balcony level is not perfect. Everybody knows that, but we'll continue to refine. So where we sit today is we think about the different layers of the system: local, ISD, regional, and state along the left-hand side. At the local level, we will have a district. So I'm going to zero in on a district. Across the top half of this circle is year one of this grant, which we're assuming would be starting next fall. We would identify at the district level a team who would want to do this work. We would hope that there would be leadership. We would hope that there would be grade level representatives. So K through 5 representatives, one teacher for each from the district who is going to be a partner. Pre-K will also be invited. If a district has pre-K teachers in their system, then that would be a grade level to include as well. What we're thinking is that we would support this leadership team across the 24-25 school year. They would get messy. They would do the learning. They would try implementing. We would record video. We'd create tools. We would do all the stuff and be messy prior to rolling it out full staff in this partner district in the 25-26 school year. So by doing this over 2 years, it will allow us to get around some of the obstacles, also capture video of what it could look like so that when we're rolling out full staff, we have resources that are site specific to support the group. That's at the local district level. And I'm going to go up now to the ISD level. What the ISD's role is going to be is to be a first line of communication with these districts. To start, we're going to have to identify the districts who are going to be a part of this work. So we already know that the district has to be below the state average in 3rd grade MSTEP. So that already is selecting a few districts from each county. From that list, we'll have to talk with them and say, are we interested in a long-term partnership? Can we shift the focus from what it might have been next year to this new thing to be a part of this work? Is the district ready? Do we have readiness and are interested at the leadership level in doing some of this work? After that happens, ISD is going to be a critical role in communication. So when the district says, ooh, this is really hard right now, or this isn't working, they'll contact the ISD, and the ISD will be able to, 1, provide the resources or support, or 2, communicate to the regional or state team that they might need additional support. Up a layer. This is a new layer that we don't currently have in the state of Michigan necessarily. There are some examples of it, but this is a new piece of the system where we create regional supports that work across ISD lines to support this work. So what you see on the right-hand side are 1 or 2 districts from each ISD or county who have said, yes, we want to be a part of this work. We're talking about creating this additional layer of people to support the work. So they're going to be direct supports for these schools. So they'll be in the school working with leadership, working with teachers, coaching, consulting, facilitating PL. They'll also be communicating closely and working closely with ISD leads. So know that there's this regional early math specialist, EMS, who will be supporting the work. So the work at the state level then becomes to support the regional EMS in their learning so that they're able to take the learning that we have as a focus and bring it to all of these regions and districts. So as we continue to get up layers of the system, you see how large it becomes. Yes, 1 or 2 per county or per ISD seems small, but when you think about 56 ISDs with 1 or 2, the number of districts, teachers, leaders becomes quite large. So in short, the state level team will support the regional early math specialists in their learning and their problem solving so that they're able to support ISD and local teams in actually implementing the work. I'm going to pause because that's a lot of content, and I'm going to just check chat quick. Christy, can you maybe say a little bit more? I do see your question, representatives from a district or building within a district. And maybe I need to rewind. Okay, Trish is helping. Yeah, thanks, Trish. Christy, feel free to add another question if that doesn't totally answer it. So the slides that we've just shared have been the system. We haven't talked about what the learning is at all. So what we're now thinking about, in addition to the system piece, what needs to be better, what's unclear, which there are a lot of questions that we have to answer yet for this application. The next question is, what's the content? Like, this is the system. What are we actually going to be learning about and implementing? And currently, where that's taking us, which is not set in stone, so don't send this out yet too far, is we're thinking about Essential 7. And we're thinking about Essential 7 for many reasons. One of them, because it allows us to highlight the value statements, to live in the work of positioning children as mathematicians and that they have ideas to share. Essential 7 allows us to do something that we believe is quite challenging for children, for teachers in our current system, which is making sense of and solving story-based problems. So we think that with Essential 7, there's so many connections, 1, to the values, 2, to current challenges that we might see in classrooms, and then 3, to other essential practices. So when we think about the work of Essential 7, you could name every other essential that makes its way into this work. So we feel like it could be a way to kind of bring everything together. What we're doing currently is thinking hard about Essential 7, the language that's in there, and then what additional resources might we want to dive into just to think a little bit further and learn a little bit further. The 2 books that are on the screen are where we're going to start, which is the Children's Mathematics book, which is pretty much centered on K-5, and then the Young Children's Mathematics, which is before kindergarten. What these books allow us to do is to think about the bullets in Essential 7 and get to a new layer of specificity and learning. Many of you have probably read these books like I have, but it's been a few years, probably even pre-COVID. So I'm getting them back out, going to reread and just think about what this might look like as we think about this work across Michigan. And I'll pause and see how chat's going. Okay. Yeah, Danielle, I think the questions are coming in as I'm trying to catch up are around the regional EMS. Yeah, right now we have some clarity. So your questions are great. I think we probably all have the same questions. We have some clarity to create for us and for everybody about the role of the regional EMS and the role of ISDs. Those things are different depending on the ISD, specifically so Dana and Danielle, you're in ISDs, obviously, with math consultants. So how does that relationship play out so that we're working together toward the same end? And that looks very different for ISDs that don't have math consultants or math support. So look for, as this next month or month and a half goes on, hopefully we'll be able to create some more clarity there. That is the end of the summary on 23H, along with any other agenda items that we had. So I'll just create a space for if there's any additional questions, topics, or suggestions that would be helpful. I'm not seeing anything else come in. I know this live update was a little longer. Thanks for bearing with me. 23H is a hot topic right now, and I wanted to get as much out as possible on 23H in addition to the other couple items. So normally we try to keep it to about 15 minutes, but we broke that rule today. Next update is February 16th at 8:30. So that will be next month. I look forward to seeing you all there. And if you're feeling good, have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. I do see another question that's coming in on the leader series, so I'll answer that. But if you need to run, knowing a lot of people probably have places to get or meetings to get to, feel free. Have a great weekend, and we'll chat soon. As always, feel free to send an email. You can message in the app to myself, Trish, Sonia, or anybody else on this call. It's a team effort. Have a great week. Trish said, what will it look like for those joining virtually to the Leader Series in Traverse City? Great question, Trish. The virtual option will be one that will have facilitation materials for someone to lead the work on the site. So know that we'll have access to all of the documents and tools that would be in Traverse City. There will be a feed that will take the stream, basically like we've done before, from Traverse City and out into the spaces that will be virtual. So that will just simply be a Zoom link with a moderator, and then we'll provide resources for any site that will be virtual. I don't know if that was the layer of specificity, Trish, so feel free to add on if there's another specific question. Not seeing anything else come in. All right, everyone, if you're still here, have a great day. Thanks, Danielle.